At the close of World War II, the United States had the greatest naval force the world had ever known. There was no nation or combination of nations that could challenge its power and numbers. We possessed complete command of the seas. Our occupation forces and citizens abroad could feel safe, for all oceans were open to our free movement. Peace existed, and so we reduced our naval forces. But we discovered we were wrong in believing that aggression had been eliminated from the world. We started to rebuild that great naval power we had once possessed. For it had become clear that we must always maintain command of the seas, in the Arctic, in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, and here at home. Any potential enemy must be kept safely away from our shores, and any possible blockade or seizure of areas providing strategic materials for American industry must be prevented. There have been nations that have drifted without opening their protective parachutes until they were dangerously close to oblivion. For drifting is always easier than facing up to reality. But the Navy realized that the atom bomb made a powerful fleet even more imperative. With potential enemies already developing atomic power and vastly improved methods of submarine warfare, the strength, if not the numbers, of our wartime Navy must be recovered. At the close of World War II, the Navy had developed a method of preserving its excess ships so they would not deteriorate at anchor and the vast investment be lost. If they should be needed again, they could quickly be made available. Even before trouble started in Korea, our Navy was prepared to rebuild, to meet the developing threat to peace. That aggression quickened the recovery of ships from their standby cocoons. And very soon, many of our mothballed ships were again at sea. The Navy also maintained a reserve of manpower. All over America, Naval Reserve units were spending time each week keeping up their skills within the progressive Navy program. Navy Reserve pilots were learning to fly jet planes that had been only drawing board plans during World War II. Naval Reserves also attended classes ashore and took annual cruises in the Navy's plan to keep itself always strong, always ready. Navy recruiting was increased. Young Americans were again moving in greater numbers to naval training stations, where they would be converted from civilians to sailors. Many of them had never before seen the ocean or a Navy pulling boat. They were trained in firefighting and 100 other things. For training never stops in the Navy. The waves so valuable during World War II and after, were again recruiting as the Korean War started. They have been coming into the Navy ever since, both enlisted and officer, in ever-increasing numbers. Women Marines, like the Waves, were starting to rebuild their numbers, depleted following World War II. New recruits were being trained into trim replacements in non-combatant duties for the Marines. The Marine Corps was being strengthened to provide more men for duty overseas and to meet any future outbreak in new areas. New recruits were put through the intensive training that would make them the finest fighting men in the world. The Navy's program at Annapolis was enlarging to provide officers for the increasing demands of ships and planes. Traditionally, the midshipmen would make summer cruises to observe the Navy at sea. And they would be graduated one bright June day to become naval officers. Programs in many American colleges were providing scientists, medical men, and other specialists as new officers. And naval air training centers, like Pensacola, were training pilots and more pilots. The manpower of the Navy was growing steadily. Paralleling the rebuilding of naval manpower came modification of many of the Navy's ships to fit them for present and future requirements. New ships are coming down the ways. Ships with greater speed and the latest in fighting equipment. New, larger carriers are being planned in the program to keep our Navy the finest in the world. New submarines, like this, have been designed to meet the threat of potential enemies' underwater fleets. A threat to freedom of the seas everywhere. The submarine today is a top weapon of war. Navy research into atomic propulsion marks our progressive thinking in this field. The progress of naval research and development was speeded up. In scientific centers like the Naval Ordnance Laboratory, experts in dozens of fields planned and designed new equipment to be used now and in the future. Planning and testing never stop. Modifications of present equipment are studied. New types of materials are tested. No possible advance in naval science can be overlooked. Testing of model planes in the high-speed wind tunnel determines air action on their surface and gives information regarding new streamlined design. Torpedoes with more speed and explosive power are designed and tested. In one of its largest testing centers, the David Taylor Model Basin, underwater demolition experiments are conducted. Models of ships' hulls are tested on special carriages straddling the longest basin in the world to provide vital information concerning ship design. High-speed planes and missiles are also part of the experimental program. The UDT men, underwater demolition teams, can operate with submarines below the surface without exposing themselves to enemy eyes. Equipped with breathing masks and fins, they have conquered the ocean as man did 1,000,000 years ago when he emerged from its depths. On the Earth, covered chiefly with water, new methods of warfare may make the submarine an even more fearsome weapon for both offense and defense. The Navy operates above as well as upon and below the surface of the ocean. Her jet planes have crossed the sonic barrier far beyond the speed of sound. Types of planes are being produced, like this one, for carrier operations, in the continued effort to remain ahead of any nation in the world. In the field of rockets and guided missiles, the Navy has made tremendous advances. In their earlier development, many of them are tested on land. Others, designed for air-to-surface use, are tested from planes against ground targets. Some are launched from surfaced submarines, which can take them anywhere in the world. Larger ones can be transported to the shores of the enemy by our carriers. And the largest of them all, the Viking, is launched from an experimental Navy guided missile ship. To ensure freedom of trade with our allies, to protect the ships of free nations from attack, and to deny the ocean to an enemy, to keep this nation secure, the Navy, now and always, must maintain command of the seas.